Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's session on what the union budget holds for MSME and manufacturing sector. It's organized by IT Manufacturing. So the union budget for this year was masterfully balanced. The provision of there was provision of immediate economic relief as well as it also laid the foundation for long-term structural growth. Also, by slashing taxes, empowering MSMEs, investing in cutting edge infrastructure, and also promoting innovation. So, with all these things, the budget will definitely help India become a resilient economic powerhouse and a globally competitive manufacturing destination. Of course, there are certain areas which are still not, they were not given much attention, which probably will need some attention in the near future. So, in today's discussion, what we are going to discuss is the impact of this budget on the MSME growth, operations, and the entire manufacturing industry. And if there are any misses in the budget, which the our expert speakers think, so we will highlight those also. So, I will start with maybe Mr. Shukla. So, Mr. Shukla, the MSME, of course, the MSME has been a very important growth engine for the Indian manufacturing sector as well as to the Indian economy. So the budget this year introduces significant policy measures aimed at strengthening the MSME sector. For example, the investment and turnover threshold for MSME classification, they have been increased by I think 2.5 and 2 times respectively to facilitate the scalability, technological advancements, and of course the improved access to capital. So, what is your take on that? Do you think this kind of initiatives will definitely give boost to MSME to perform better in near future?
First of all, thank you, Shekhar, for inviting me to this program and honored to be part of this esteemed panel of experts. I echo your views on the thrust given to MSME sector in this year's financial budget that was presented by the Honorable Finance Minister. So what happens is that MSME as a sector is privy to a lot of benefits from the government in terms of capital subsidies, startup subsidies, electrification subsidies, and whatnot. And the biggest benefit the MSME gets is assured payments within 45 days from large enterprises. So when you increase the scope and when you change the definition of MSME per se, what has basically happened is that companies which were doing 125 crores turnover, now all the way up to 500 crores, those companies now fall under MSME. And their investment has also gone up from 50 crores to 125 crores. So on the one side, the finance minister is encouraging MSMEs, micro, small, and medium, to improve their investments and consequently increase their turnover as well, yet remain within the ambit of MSME. One of the reasons to do this is that they will continue to enjoy the benefits that the government has specifically for MSME across India. Across India, all industrial estates, there are specific subsidy schemes going on round the year, whether it is for foods or technology or toys or whatnot. So by increasing the ambit of MSMEs in terms of both investment as well as in terms of say revenue, I think it's a great move by the finance minister to encourage the MSME players, because ultimately this is the sector which provides almost 40% of manufacturing in India and creates almost 7.5 crore jobs. So it's a very crucial sector piece in the overall manufacturing piece for India. So and in addition to this, the credit assurance schemes that the central government gives to the banks for lending to MSMEs, that limits have also been increased from 5 crore to 10 crore for most MSMEs, and from export-oriented MSMEs from 10 crores to 20 crores. So that's an additional thrust to MSMEs.
Okay. So, Mrs. Kelkar, do you think this strengthening of these efforts from the government for strengthening the MSMEs, like what Mr. Shukla also mentioned about the investment and turnover threshold? So, what is your take on that?
Yeah, thanks, Shekhar, for inviting me on this panel. Uh, this budget indeed enhances the whole economy in terms of the first booster is enhancing the spending power of middle class. to indeed boost the manufacturing and correspondingly MSMEs, because MSMEs play a big role in manufacturing. As Mr. Shukla pointed out, all the limits have been increased. So more companies will get enrolled as MSMEs, and they will get the benefit for sure. Currently, there are 1 crore MSMEs on Udyam portal. There might be many who are still not got on the Udyam portal. 45% of MSMEs do the export, and enhancing the credit guarantees over from 5 crores to 10 crores, and improving access to credit for MSMEs. Definitely, the government is taking very serious efforts in strengthening the MSMEs who can take benefit from our own demands. The internal demand, one very good part about India is we have our own internal demand, which our own number of people who live in India is so large. And also by boosting the rural, this government has clearly said about the inclusive growth. So they want to take more rural also in the ambit of the growth. And this is indeed a very big number. Even the whole world is looking at this number. And such right policies like the increasing the tax limit to 12 lakhs will certainly boost the economy by demands from the middle class. And the boost to MSME is very clear in multiple things pointed out earlier. And also, I wish to mention that there is a new MSME tech center. So government wants to boost MSME in terms of technology upgradation as well, which will indeed help them not only in the Indian market but for export. So such new centers will be set up. Then there is a guarantee emergency credit line which is up to 9,000 crores, and then market promotion scheme for boosting exports for MSME, which is about 100 CR. Besides this, the PLI scheme getting extended to auto and auto component will give a very big boost to the whole manufacturing setup. So, yes, it is a very, very welcome step.
Right. Thanks for your inputs. I'm sure with all these initiatives, MSMEs are going to perform better. But neither myself or many of the industry people still think there are certain areas which are still overlooked or that may need some attention. So I will come to Mr. Verma now. So, Mr. Verma, what do you think? Are there any areas? Of course, if you have any perspective on the other initiatives which we have just mentioned, but apart from that, do you think there are any other areas where you feel that government should have focused on or that needs some attention maybe in the near future?
Shekhar, thanks for this opportunity to be on this panel with all the esteemed members here. The members have really, in short, said a lot of things which I agree, and I think everybody in the MSME sector wholeheartedly welcomes the budget initiatives that has been taken, because you use the word masterful balance. That's what the finance minister, the honorable finance minister, has achieved by not only boosting the consumption but boosting the production side as well. Because for the whole economy to function, that was a tough balance to create, but she's been able to do that. Just one point I want to mention, which I'm seeing in front of my eyes, which has not been touched upon so far in our panel discussion, is about this national manufacturing mission and clean tech manufacturing. As someone who's very much involved in the solar sector as of now, I'm seeing these customers come one by one. The PLI scheme already is doing wonders for the Indian economy, even for MSMEs like us, because somewhere down the line, all of us get affected, not only as a consumer, also producer of goods for solar and EV. And the government, it seems, is now promoting this national manufacturing mission for clean tech, which means that they understand that India is so dependent, so reliant right now on imports when it comes to solar and EVs, that we really have to become independent, and the government putting money and thinking of creating industrial hubs where MSMEs will get opportunity for this kind of sector, because somehow even as somebody who comes from the MSME background, I do feel that the future is in India is no longer just machining and stuff like that. It's in technology. And it's in places like solar and EVs. I think that's a brilliant move. Not many people have spoken about it because it does not have the highlight. It does not get the optics. But this is really a game changer, I feel. The focus on MSMEs and also the clean technology. Because you see that the new battle in the world is the war is being fought economically now, and the countries putting credit limits and duties on solar. So India just needs to be solar reliant, otherwise the whole economy will stall in the next few years. So I welcome this budget and also these small things which the government is giving attention to. I welcome it wholeheartedly.
That's correct. I think with this kind of activities like National Manufacturing Mission and the clean tech technology, this definitely gives boost to the clean manufacturing as well as sustainable manufacturing in future. So, Dr. Vishwas, I would like to ask you, since technology is your forte, so this kind of initiatives that includes this National Manufacturing Mission and also focus on clean tech manufacturing. So, what do you think whether this will help Indian manufacturing industry as to perform or to make a remarkable position in the global market, and how this kind of initiatives will help manufacturers per se in terms of producing the goods which are acceptable in the global market?
Absolutely. First of all, thank you again, Mr. Chitkar, for this opportunity to be a part of this eminent panel and share my views on the recent budget and its implications on MSME. So to answer to your question, see, India is emerging as a very strong technology hub. There's a lot of impetus and support that's coming to startups in terms of developing new technologies and bringing it out to the market. I'm sure there's a mission that our Honorable Prime Minister has put, telling India should become the global startup hub where it incubates and starts and leads to successful development of many startups, or the most startups in the world. Having said that, if you look at the numbers from a manufacturing perspective, it's still limited to very few sectors. Today, the only areas that are really benefiting being a startup in manufacturing are either space tech or med tech, who are reaping these benefits because of being recognized as some of the niche markets. When you look at other areas of development in technology, they're yet to get that kind of benefit. We work with a lot of startups today in we being one of the leading manufacturers of additive manufacturing machines, 3D printing machines. We are seeing that a lot of our startup customers are finding it challenging to get either credits from bank or loans approved because they don't have collaterals, they don't have enough, they're still at a very, very nascent incubation stage. Unless they're able to demonstrate value to potential investors and they actually see the value in them, they're finding it very difficult to get the ball rolling, get just enough funds to get the process going. So I believe this one, enhancement of limits and also the taxation benefits will surely help. But I think there could be a little more support that can come in, though I see the fund of funds that's been allotted for manufacturing and MSME up to about 10,000 crores has been done. We are only hoping that when it gets allotted into multiple streams, these startups can also benefit from that and they can actually leverage on this to get the ball rolling. If you look at it, there's the little that I've come to believe internationally, be it in the West or even in our other Asian neighbors, there's a lot more push that is given for manufacturing, which otherwise is seen a little later here in India when it comes to supporting from a manufacturing, from a startup perspective. So this is already in line in support of that, but it can be a tad better going ahead with the future in the near future. So this is my little view on what can happen better, what has already happened for the MSMEs, especially from the startup line for manufacturing and innovations in manufacturing for startups.
That's great perspective. So, Mr. Muthusekhar, I want to ask you, since you have been working in the innovation sector, like your company has been working in the innovation area. So, do you think the initiatives proposed by the government will help boost innovation in India? And do you think, are there any areas where you think little more attention would have been given by the government?
Yeah, thank you, Shekhar and ET Manufacturing. I just want to tell a couple of things which are very good in this budget. Number one is the taxation, which is, simplification and reducing the tax rates, which will definitely boost the revenue. Second is the urban development. Urban infra is the need of the hour and can improve the standards of the life, which will also attract investments. And to your question, I want to talk about mining reforms, which has been already addressed in this budget, which needs to be enhanced. I personally believe if we unleash the potential of the mining, especially the rare minerals in the country, the GDP can be doubled. This is what I have been talking for many years. That's the kind of abundant wealth and potential what we have in our country. And if you look at many of the countries who are extremely successful in terms of, the GDP is basically coming from the mining sector. So that needs to be, looked little more deeper, and probably more transparency needs to come. Also, the private partnership in the mining, which will definitely help. And the other area which is already talked in the budget is the power infra enhancement will go well with the mining, and this will also help the industrial growth. And one thing which I have been advocating and I have been speaking is the DLI. Like you already have a PLI scheme, you also need a DLI. DLI, what I'm talking is a district level incentive scheme. That means, focusing on the MSMEs, and this district level incentive scheme is not in form of any money or anything, but this will be more in terms of incubation centers. This will be more in terms of testing centers. I'm talking in each and every district. So that will help the local MSMEs to grow. So this is my point of view.
Okay. Mr. Shukla, I will come back to you now. So there has been the export promotion mission, which the government is probably launching to further integrate MSMEs into the global economy. And I believe this initiative will focus on more on easier access to export credit, and then cross-border factoring support, or also addressing non-tariff barriers for MSMEs in the international markets. So what is your perspective on that?
So, yeah, of course, I mean, supporting the MSMEs in terms of giving credit is always good. Making policy framework around supporting that is welcome. But that per se is not going to just increase the exports. It's not that easy for any MSME to start exporting to any country outside India, because exports requires a lot of pre-work before that, in terms of having the sales channels, go-to-market strategy, what is the positioning of your product, do you have the export certifications in place, is the quality good enough, who are you going to compete in those segments, do you have the local feet on the ground, how are you going to do support after sales. So there's a lot of things that a manufacturer is asked when he starts to export. One of the things that he's asked is standards. Are you going to comply to my country's standard? And that is something where the CII and the FICCI and the Ministry of Heavy Industry is working very closely to have harmonization and cross acceptance of standards. Is the IAS standard or BIS standard for several products accepted by the exporting countries in Europe, for example? So those are some of those things that are going. Also, I would say, is the foundational things that we will have to do. Also, hand-holding many of these micro and small enterprises in how to market your products. The days of having physical collaterals and brochures may not be sufficient. There may be different ways of reaching out. Are there sufficient India-specific pavilions in all of these export markets that we are targeting? Can we have a trade participation subsidy program by the central government to encourage more and more MSMEs to take their products to global trade shows? Because that's a big expense for a small company doing 50, 60 crores turnover. They need to think about whether they can afford to take part in 3 or 4 trade shows. So those are some of those things that will also have to be explored by the central government in their future policy making. But I think that, other than exports also, if you think about all the other announcements in this year's budget, for example, the defense revenue expenditure has gone up by 10%. Okay. So that's a substantial amount of like almost 3,11,000 crores. There is a trickle down effect of this to the MSMEs. When India launches a space mission or a Chandrayaan, not everything in that is made by L&T or ISRO. There are so many things that are made by different MSMEs who have core competencies in forging, in machining, in castings, and whatnot. So those kind of schemes, the scheme to promote India as a toy hub, and all of these things has a trickle down effect in manufacturing, which ultimately percolates down to the MSME. So there's enough, I would say, masala and momentum in this year's budget for the MSMEs to think bold, think big, and take big steps now to grow their businesses.
Correct. You really put the right perspective when it comes to export market, that just making some presence in export market is not enough. You need to have some kind of foundation activities to make yourself competitive in the global market. Correct. So, Mrs. Kelkar, since your company is also into export in different countries, so do you think the whatever initiatives taken by the finance minister in this year budget in terms of export, so are those enough for any MSME in India to make their presence felt in the export market?
Shekhar, now the basic policy has been declared. The basic framework of is declared by the government, but uh, our finance minister has clearly said the detailing is yet to be done. So your answer lies in detailing, the framing of the various schemes, and then getting it down to earth. So from IMTMA side or even CII, we have put up our recommendations in the capital goods policy. The government is reframing the capital goods policy, and the three important aspects given in that is firstly, to improve the competitiveness of the Indian machines when it comes to export, not only in terms of monetary competitiveness, but the technological competitiveness. So techno-commercial competitiveness of the Indian goods need to be of the global standard. And for that, multiple initiatives like the technology upgradation schemes, and the R&D support. So MHI is running the project to fund such R&D work to develop the equipment to make it globally competitive, and also import substitute the equipments which can be import substituted, because all said and done today 55 to 60% of the capital goods consumed, rather the machine tools consumed in India, they are imported. So this is also something which we need to seriously look at. Yes, we have to export, we have to be globally competitive, not only to capture the export market, but also to, get a bigger share of the Indian market. The Indian market consumption is growing, it is the highest ever. The machine tool consumption. And we are losing 55% of that share to the foreigners. So a good amount of detailing has to be done in how to reduce that import and how to increase it by competitiveness. And so we also had some recommendations that the preference be given to the Indian capital goods, particularly we can link it to PLI scheme. So we have recommended that if government can link PLI scheme and some percentage of the equipment planned for the project should be from India, should be Indian origin capital goods. This was one recommendation. Then for exports, we talk about the exhibitions or creating awareness through the exhibitions. I think we need to go one step further by setting up our own technology centers outside India. That will be a kind of permanent display, not only of the machines, but also the technical abilities of the Indian companies. So the discussions are going on all these multiple issues, which will be the actual operational issues to make this, the policy or the declarations in the budget, make it happen, or take it to the ground level and give it a final effect. So a lot depends in execution, because once something is declared, lot of detailing and then physical execution becomes very important.
So I will come to Mr. Shukla back again because I think he wants to leave a little early. So in terms of skilling and upskilling, the budget has announced the establishment of 5 national centers of excellence for skilling. Then there is a center of excellence in AI and 50,000 Atal Tinkering Labs over the next 5 years. The basic objective is to equip the youth with the skills required for manufacturing. So what is your perspective on this?
See, I have heard 2 versions of these skilling centers. One version is a success story. So it seems there are some excellent national skill development centers in NCR region and in North, which have trained nurses, chefs, etc. But then these people have been trained and they have been posted overseas in assignments. So there are people who have trained in India and have gone to Japan as chefs and have gone to other European countries where there's a shortage of nurses, both male and female. Okay. So to that aspect, these people going overseas, working in developed markets and probably sending back income in dollars, etc., is a standard benefit that India gets of the whole expat population. But I haven't really heard of a major success story still, because Skill India has been there now for several years. And I haven't really seen people coming out of that Skill India program and say, I am a product of a batch of 2023 Skill India program, and now I'm employed at Tata Steel. I'm an alumni of 24 Skill India, of Gujarat Skill India program, and I'm now working in Milacron. I haven't seen that happen. Largely, the manufacturing industry is still left to do it on your own, hire your own interns, put them through their own training program, 3 months, 12 months, hire your own GETs, and it's still left to manufacturing to do it on their own. So I think there needs to be some creative thinking around this whole Skill India thing, where it has to be made much more structured. And how the government mandated some jobs where they gave some provident fund in the interim budget that had come. There were some provisions where people who employ a certain number of people, their provident fund will be subsidized by the central government or something like that. I think some similar schemes may have to be given. A little bit more creative thinking will be required for the whole skill mission to really grow, because 1 million people are going to join every month the workforce. And how you get them skilled up so they actually join a formal economy and not remain in the informal gig economy as now that has come up of e-commerce and quick commerce and Uber and Ola, and actually join the formal economy. Because unless those 1 million people don't join the formal economy, the manufacturing will have a dearth of skilled labor, and then that will not grow. And if manufacturing doesn't grow, India is not going to become a 5 trillion economy. If manufacturing doesn't grow, just on the basis of agriculture and service exports. So I would say there is still a lot of needs to be done around the whole skilling piece. I think we need to figure out and I think the government needs to engage the industry a little bit more and hear their opinions on that.
Correct. The government has to collaborate with industry to take all these initiatives, not just skilling initiatives, but even in terms of other initiatives to make the industry competitive in the global market. So Rakesh, I will come to you now. Like earlier, we discussed about the MSME has to take the next step with the support from the government. But whatever support or whatever initiatives are already coming from the government, do you think that will help MSMEs to grow further and give boost to its export activities, as well as grow exponentially, also build competitiveness in the global market? And do you see any kind of misses in the budget in this area?
Maybe I just want to add to the skilling what Mr. Shukla answered. When you see the German companies and like VDMA or Indo-German Chamber of Commerce, you have a senior expert service that is called SES. So that means the retired people from the industry, from the specialization, they are ready, available for doing the skilling, and they will come to the individual companies, MSMEs, and do a handholding for a few weeks and be part and parcel of the development and the skill development and nurturing the team. I think something similar needs to be added along with the Atal the initiative what the government is talking about.
So Rakesh, what do you think? Do you think these kind of initiatives which are like announced for the MSMEs, so will that help MSMEs to make their presence in the global market? And also, as Mrs. Kelkar also mentioned about improving their competitiveness in the global markets. So do you think these kind of initiatives will help MSMEs to grow exponentially in the global market as well as to fulfill the requirements from the domestic market?
Thank you, Shekhar, and esteemed panelists. So yeah, that's quite helping, and I have the live example of our company as well. Which was helped through these MSM initiative, especially the CGTMSE scheme. So we were a very small, we fall under a small category. We were under 20-25 crore of turnover earlier. Then we heard the loan in 59 minutes scheme. The which government announced 3-4 years back, and we applied for it, and somehow we got around 2 crore of funds from the government, and with the help of that, within a year we grew to 50 crore. That was almost double. And then again it started, and we got access up to 5 crores of the funds, which helped us to cross 100 crores. Apart from that, we were also able to start our export division. So like me, there are, I think, several companies in machine tool, especially machine tool division, because if we see, we are almost 7th machine tool user, and but machine tool manufacturing in India is very low, as Mohini ma'am had already said. We are almost just 5% of the manufacturing in machine compared to the world level. So the total market is about $100 billion size for the machine tool manufacturing, but India is doing almost 5 billion only, where in China is about 30 billion plus. So we still have a long way to go, and that aspect I think was still left to recognize machine tool industry as a separate. They are giving a lot of attention to the sunrise sectors like EV or like solar, or there are a lot of electronics manufacturing industry, but machine tool industry, if it comes, it's not been that kind of recognized industry in India. But to make in India or to create in India, we need machines, and for that we need to have specific policies from the government about some subsidies or some good schemes for MSME, for machine tool division. Another will be skilling. So there are a lot of gap for the skill development, especially into this industry, which is causing a lot of efficiency losses in us. So if we see a European or a Chinese factory and the kind of efficiency they have, we are not efficient that as well, because we are lacking that skill development. Though government has announced many skill development centers will be there, but as Shukla ji has said, that there are no visible or signs of that. We have not seen kind of people coming out of a skill development center and telling that I have passed out from the skill development center and it has helped us. So those are the areas where we need to address, and especially when we go to the exports, we need very good skilled people. We also need quality in our products. But somehow, if you go to MSME, like that I caught many times, that many of the MSMEs, they are not able to give any quality toilets to their user. How can you expect a quality product out of that when you are not able to fulfill their basic requirement? So we need to address from the ground all these things. It's not only government, but as an entrepreneur or as an industrialist, we should work on the ground level, and and at the same time we should urge government to recognize us, and also to support us and empower us, so that we can empower India and we can create in India. So that's my opinion on that.
Correct. That's the great perspective. I hope the government will look into it in the near future. So Dr. Vishwas, I will come to you. So there has been so far discussion about the growing demand in the domestic market as well as the export market. But because, as Mrs. Kelkar also mentioned, because we don't have that much of scale in India, so the foreign companies are coming and they're capturing the market. So do you think there has been certain areas where we are lacking in terms of our competitiveness, or maybe our technology and innovations? Because everywhere it's said that we are technologically competent, we have the resources, we have the innovation skills. But is there something where we are lacking, which is holding us to tap the market in the domestic as well as the export market, which is sometime or maybe some part of that market is captured by the foreign currencies?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, good question. If you look at it historically, this has been happening for most of the industries. If you see CII's shadow body is SIAM and ATMA. At one point in time, the entire automotive market was largely flooded by imported manufacturing companies. I mean, with all due respect, though Maruti is considered India, it still came from Japan. The technology started off from there. Only now, in these past 2, 3, 4 years, we are seeing completely domestic companies like the Tatas and the Mahindras lifting their ante and then trying to match up to the international ones, maybe through collaborations either with the Koreans or the Europeans, where the products have come up to be of the standards equivalent, on par, if not better, to some of the international ones. The shadow body to that would be our component manufacturers. If you remember or recollect, at one point in time, the components that used to come to cater to the requirement used to be about 70% imported and about 20-30% domestically produced. Now, in these past 15-20 years, it has been reversed. And a lot of them are export oriented, which means component manufacturers today very proudly are exporting to some of the best automotive manufacturers globally. And it's actually the whole the manufacturers, component manufacturers domestically are able to cater to more than 70-80% of the Indian requirement. So I'm sure very confidently I can say that even from a CNC machine or the engineering equipment manufacturing also, it's only a matter of time that this will change. But the speed at which we are able to catch up to that gap is not as per the market requirement. There were times when end users were patiently willing to wait, but today the expectation is much faster, much shorter. So we need to do a lot of things, both from the industry side and from the government side. We see some good benefits from the Make in India scheme, the MSME preference scheme. Today, we ourselves are seeing a lot of such benefits, being from one of the niche markets, which is metal 3D printing. We do benefit from being a Made in India company and also benefit from being a local MSME. And I'm sure it's definitely going to add value to us as consumers also, where there's going to be increasing demand for local manufacturing. But like you rightly said, there has to be very strong focus on innovation mindset. If you look at it, even now, we're still only looking at catching up to the Europeans from a technology development, not leapfrogging ahead of them. We've always believed in only, with due respect to most of the companies, keeping exclusions like the Grandmaster away. We only try to look at catching up to the European machines and see how we can get it on par to them, not looking at what the customer would want 5 years from now or 10 years from now, and try to work on them right now. So our visibility from an innovation and R&D perspective is not beyond 2 or 3 years, not like 15 or 20 years down, or at least about 10 years down what we could be looking at. So those are a few mindset changes that are expected from manufacturers or OEMs, and impetus and support from the government to incubate such technology at a time. I mean, there were times when government had R&D offset where tax benefits were given to pure R&D activities, where 150 to 200% tax benefit was being given. Those were taken away, assuming, this may not be the right one. So it may be necessary to bring back some of those incentives where manufacturers do get incentivized in investing in R&D and trying to develop newer technologies, which could be the need of the future, not the today, tomorrow, but the day after tomorrow, which is the need of the hour, which is what we are seeing internationally. If you look at, including China and the West, there's a lot of importance that is being given to some of the advanced technologies where manufacturing is being looked after. I mean, sad to say, because of this lack of investment in such development, the manpower, the students, the engineering manpower who's coming out of education is still just the mediocre ones, because bulk of them are moving towards something much more lucrative like the AI, data sciences, and other interesting fields. So we are not able to attract good talent. We are not able to retain good talent. We are not able to invest in developing good innovation. So it's a vicious circle. There's a lot of effort from both government side and the industry side that needs to be done to make this possible. I mean, the blame game can continue, but we all have to come together and see how we can really tie it all up and then make the country really strong. And like it was mentioned, 5 trillion economy is not going to be possible unless it comes as a unified effort. So that's what I believe needs to be done in the next 5 to 8 years' time before we see the real change happening.
Right, you perfectly captured the essence of this area. You exactly hit the hammer on the nail. I will come to Ashish now. So, do you think what Dr. Bishwas and also other people, other panelists have spoken on the innovation and technology part? So, like, if you notice, just one day before the budget, the chief economic advisor, he said that the government should get out of the business of the industry. So industry has to do everything on their own. But do you think whatever initiatives or policies, framework, which is announced in the recent budget, that will help, especially the MSMEs and the Indian manufacturing industry, to build that competitiveness? And what kind of more policies or what kind of more support is needed for the industry to get their innovation efforts in line with the global manufacturing landscape?
Thanks, Shekhar. I think the panelists have been quite brilliant and on point, with every point that has been mentioned by them. So I really appreciate the brevity as well as the insightful points that everyone has mentioned. I think to summarize whatever I heard, whatever I've read, from the government side, of course, a lot of good things were done. We all said, wow, very good, and we should, because the government has really created fantastic balance between spurring consumption as well as on the production side. So there's a short-term boost to consumption as well as a mid-term towards creating more production. On the government side, I do feel that maybe some rationalization in GST slabs, rules, especially for MSMEs, were in order. The PLI scheme, I'm from an MSME sector. How do I relate to PLI scheme? I don't know. So maybe the PLI scheme needs to trickle down to MSMEs. How do we become part of that, like it was in the EU export-oriented units earlier? Finance, which remains a big issue, as far as MSMEs are concerned. The payment cycle in India is so long, it's most unique in the world, which is why companies like us, we would love to invest, but we can't because the payment cycles are so stretched. So there's a lot of things which the government can still do on the regulation part to ensure that MSMEs thrive. To summarize my opinion on after today's panel discussion, I feel that for MSMEs to thrive, you need to invest in technology and you need to have the skills. I think the chief economic advisor is absolutely correct. It's my job, it's our business as MSME sector to do it. The government can only help with the regulation, but the regulation is the essential part, because India is very different from other parts of the world, wherein we have a lot of population, but we don't have enough skilled population. So it's funny, right? In India, we say, aadmi nahi milte. I mean, if you can't find people in India, where the hell are you going to find people, right? So it's something that the government, the academia, as well as the industry needs to do together. We are all falling short. We can't blame each other. But if we figure out how to improve on technology and the skills, and the government helps on the finance side, I think we really have a bright future. The intentions are very good. I'm very positive in the economy and this government. And let's hope that all of us together, companies like us, bodies like us, CII and all these bodies, we can all work towards a better and more progressive India.
Yeah, I'm just asking you the last question, which everyone can answer in just probably 10 to 20 seconds. We'll start with Mr. Shukla since he has to leave. Since the budget has already come, of course, their fine prints need to be checked in the next few months. Everything will depend on how it gets executed and what kind of policy framework is made to actually make these policies or make this announcement work for the industry. So do you think there is more can be done from the industry side with collaboration, in collaboration with the government, and what that would be?
Friends who are doing business under since several years in the MSME segment, the one common theme that they ask is we need land and labor reforms. Okay. Even today, one of my friends who has an existing facility and he wants to create one more additional bay to expand his manufacturing, the number of licenses that he needs to take is bordering on stupidity. In his own plant, in his own existing facility, a brownfield expansion, he says that I don't have the wherewithal that a large conglomerate may have a dedicated administrative office to run around with government offices and liaise with government offices to get all these approvals. So therefore, while the government has said, go and expand, here is the money, here is the investment, here's the finance, he as an entrepreneur has to focus on getting the business, executing the business, and then if he has to go pillar to post to government offices to get approvals to build an additional 20 meter by 100-meter bay, then that's not going to help him. And this is just one person we are talking about. There are thousands like this across India. So such kind of ease of manufacturing acts at a ground level, the government must do for MSMEs particularly, is where I will call the land reforms and then also some amount of labor reforms. Those are the two asks that remain pending from MSMEs, I would say. Thank you. Back to you, Shane.
Okay. Yeah. Mr. Rakesh, would you like to put in your words in that?
Yeah, now okay. So yeah, one thing will be simplifying regulations, because there are a lot of regulatory burdens on MSME, and we should make it business friendly, all the regulations. Second, I will say is like the support for financing, because there are a lot of schemes available from the government, but it's not getting passed through the MSMEs. They are not accessible so much. So that should be there. The education and awareness should be there. And then we need the labors like the skill development and the technology development facilities to enhance the skills, and that will help us to achieve global standards and also the competitiveness. And as apart from that, I think reducing some tariff and non-tariff barriers will help it. So it has to make business friendly. So we are also facing, like, there are so many custom related issues, GST related issues. Recently there was GST on the purchase of industrial land. So it's just it's a transfer of the transfer of the ownership of the lease license. Still there was a lot of GST applicable, and we were getting harassed by GST department. We want to expand, but then we cannot buy the land because there are so many regulations. So these things should be helpful to improve the MSME portfolio.
Thank you. Yeah, Mrs. Kelkar, would you like to add your perspective?
We all spoke about lack of skilled manpower. We have very large ITI infrastructure, which is quite underutilized, and the upskilling, rather than setting up multiple more centers, if we focus and bring them up to the industry standard. I'm told that lot of funds allocated for this purpose are lying idle because they are not getting, there is no pull from the market. So if from the industry side, if we handhold these ITIs and bring them up, because finally any AI or IT can help only after there is a manufacturing in place. And if we want to be a manufacturing giant, we need the skills in manufacturing, the basic manufacturing. So I think ITI infrastructure enhancement should be one on agenda from the government and industry collaboration point. Another one, I feel that we spoke about innovation. Lot of our companies did develop new technologies. The challenges found by many is such developed technologies are not accepted by our own public sector. So see, when you are coming out with an innovation, it should get properly developed 100%, and that happens only by hand holding or by partnering. So I have seen that in Germany or China or other countries, the public sector hand holds for any new developed technology to physically put in action in a public sector. Maybe there are some shortfalls, but then they are overcome together. When you develop something, the shortfalls are bound to be there, but unless you partner, it will not happen. So I feel that if government or Niti Aayog kind of analyzes such projects or such companies and gives them a certain identity or certification that yes, these companies are good in this technology, so you should look at them. So this becomes a kind of mandate for any other public sectors. There are n number of public sectors or even big corporates who are scouting for the technology. And then such companies, when you have that 5-star rating or whatever rating you can call it, if you have that, you need not be L1 in any public sector bidding, because what technology you are developing may not be L1. So this L1 criteria, and also whether you have any previous reference, we are asked like that. We develop the technologies and we are asked, have you sold it to anyone before, right? But if it is a R&D, a new project, how can it be installed somewhere else? So a government company should do that, a step forward. And this is what government can do, like giving such rating. Let them analyze. I'm not saying that every company should get such a rating, but the worthy companies who have done the R&D should get a certain kind of certification on technology leadership or technology prowess. And that also creates a brand, because if my company gets it, and if I go outside India, I say that my company is certified like this, and I have a standing. I have a standing certified by the government that yes, I'm best in this particular technology. I'm sure there are many capital good makers in India who are really good in their technology, but they don't spread as much. The horizontal deployment will happen after there is a good handholding by some partnering companies. You know what I mean? So that is something which government can do for us.
Mr. Mutusekar, would you like to add to it?
One of the biggest challenges for MSMEs is the second generation coming to the, taking of the business. Why the second generation is not coming to take care of the business? I think our co-panelists talked about land reforms, because land is one which cannot be created. Whatever land is available has to be utilized in an effective way, number one. Number two is ease of doing business, but more than ease of doing business, I call it as peace of doing business. So that's where the younger generation, the second generation can come. When the second generation comes, automatically the technologies, the latest, whatever artificial intelligence or machine learning, everything comes to the MSMEs. And more than all of this is the standard of living, which is also the quality of living, where the good infrastructure. So when these points are addressed, definitely the second generations will take the reins, and then they will come to the MSME. They'll take care of the MSME business, and that will thrive. This is my opinion.
Yeah, Ashish, would you like to add your perspective?
Yeah, just concluding remarks, Shekhar. So I think the government has done its bit. In my opinion, still technology. How can the government promote MSMEs like ours to adopt technology? How will the government promote MSMEs like us to skill people? The government is not going to do it alone, right? So these are two things which are unanswered, but we can't depend on government. We just need to make sure that we do this together. So if the government has done its part, it's for us to deliver. That's all I would like to say. So a very positive environment, and for us, time for us to stand up as MSMEs and do the best for the country and for ourselves.
Okay. Yeah, Dr. Vishwas?
Yeah, while I agree with all the co-panelists, my concluding remarks would be India has been known for our jugaad that we do, which is in a way innovation its own. but we are very shy to bring it out. We are very shy to commercialize it, productionize it. If there are opportunities for us, like Mohini ma'am rightly said, either through certifications or platforms where this could be converted into viable products or solutions to challenging problems that are there by larger entities, I think we'll be far better collaboratively working than where we are today. I feel in a lot of areas we work in silos. It can be done through better connections and connectivities. I think currently the lot of focus is on large manufacturing hubs. The PLI schemes are only for the big manufacturers. There's very few schemes which are available for MSMEs, and more importantly, known to MSMEs. Most of them don't have access to the knowledge of such schemes that may be available, or even know what they can access. And considering the levels of bureaucracy that they'll have to go through, it's a lot of challenge. People say, let me just retain it to what it is today and not take it to availing those benefits. That can be changed and modified. I think we will be able to do a lot more. If you look at it, after the agri sector hiring more than 11 to 12 crore employees, MSME is the second largest employer in the country today. So that itself is a huge workforce. And if we can convey it and leverage on this strength of ours, which is otherwise considered as a weakness outside the country, will be a huge contributor in terms of the developing nation or a developed nation in the near future. So that's my view in terms of how we can work collaboratively with different sectors and segments of the industry and government bodies.
So I would like to add here that we tried to make industry academia together. We visited IITs, we visited MIT Pune and almost 30 more colleges. So we have a laser Gurukul in Pune, wherein we are training ITI diploma students, BE students, BTech students to learn about laser. And within 3 weeks they can get a job as well. They can get placement because there are almost 20,000 vacancies every year. We need manpower need is there in India, just in India. So, but we are not getting, kind of the interest which should be there from these colleges, especially. They say, talk to the, student. If he's interested, then we can send him. But many of the, these colleges, they are just saying that the new generation, they want to go into AI or they want to go into softwares. They don't want to work on the machines. So that's also a very big challenge to make the manufacturing sector a kind of more lucrative or attractive for them, because they don't want to operate the machine or program the machine. That's a big challenge. We even offered the training free of course, that we will provide the lunch, we will provide the training material, just send your students there. We have approached almost 20 to 30 colleges. We have given presentations to the students, but many of them they don't want to work on the machines or on the field. So that's a big challenge which we need to address. We need to maybe make it more attractive, the manufacturing more attractive. So there, industry and academia, if there are some government initiatives on that can be helpful, I believe.
I think that is the reality.
Yeah.
How to attract people, how to attract the new talent to manufacturing industry. Right. So it was great talking to you, and you really put in your honest and open perspective. I'm sure once we make this report of this, and probably we'll make sure that some government officials read it who are sitting in the central government, who are involved in this budget activities. And just to summarize, what we need is basically some handholding from the government, if not like taking the whole responsibility. Of course, the industry also has to work to make themselves competitive in the global market, to innovate new products which are acceptable in the global market, not just in the domestic market. And even in the domestic market, since there is increasing demand for all kinds of products, so scale up the activities so as to match with the demand, so as to make the demand supply ratio a little smaller. And also, Rakesh mentioned about some handholding from the government side in terms of whether it is the more financing, tax rationalization in maybe GST or other corporate taxes, and also some incentives to produce goods in India, to produce innovative goods in India. So that will definitely help the industry to make them self-reliant and fulfill the requirements both from the domestic and the global market. So thanks a lot to each one of you for putting in your perspective. And it was really interesting. And I really enjoyed talking to you. Great perspective from each one of you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.